Talk about a crusher. Yes! Oh!
Are you kidding me?
And gone!
Welcome back to the Schoolyard Sports Podcast. On this podcast, Lane Frank. We're now on episode 186. That's 186 episodes through, and I got an action-packed episode planned for you. The MLB playoffs are in full swing, and my New York Mets are playing great right now. NFL, what a great week we had. NBA, starting preseason. Things are ramping up in the NBA. And college football, one of the biggest weeks, maybe one of the most chaotic weeks we've ever had in college football, happened on Saturday. So we're ready to break it all down on episode 186. Stay tuned. Let's start off episode 186, how we always do, the headlines in the NFL. We had an action-packed week in the NFL. And the thing that kicked it all off was Falcons versus Buccaneers on Thursday Night Football, where we had Tom Brady versus Peyton Manning going at it. Well, never mind, it was Kirk Cousins and Baker Mayfield, but they were playing like Tom Brady and Peyton Manning, playing one of those iconic matchups, the Patriots-Broncos matchups, the Colts-Patriots matchups. Just incredible game we had in this Thursday Night Football between the Falcons and the Buccaneers. Both teams high scoring. Defenses, optional in this game. But the offenses played incredible. Kirk Cousins has had such a great start with Atlanta. And then Baker Mayfield, obviously, just keeping his revitalization of his career going with Tampa Bay. Great year last year. Great game. Didn't come out on the winning end this time, but still a great game. And then for the Falcons, keeping things going. Kirk Cousins, they're bouncing back every week. They're playing well. Love to see it. The Minnesota Vikings went in on Sunday against the New York Jets in London, and they absolutely pretty much turtled this New York Jets franchise, destroyed them, and it blew up a little bit. That's going on right now with this New York Jets franchise. After that loss on Sunday, the Jets fired head coach Robert Saleh. As I predicted before the season, I said Robert Saleh and the Jets would struggle this year, and Robert Saleh would be the first head coach to be fired. But this is the first time in 25 years of ownership that Woody Johnson has made a head coaching change mid-season. I'm a little bit surprised by it, even though I kind of predicted it. At this point, I thought maybe not this early in the year. We're only 5 games in. They're 2-3, not terrible. Robert Saleh's defense is doing well. It's really just his offense that's struggling. And he's a defensive head coach. Fire the offense coordinator. Fire somebody else. But they're promoting their defense coordinator to interim head coach. I like that move right there. Hopefully clears out the offensive staff. I thought they should have fired Nathaniel Hackett too. They didn't do that. So Robert Saleh out as head coach in the New York Jets. Chicago Bears had a nice win on Sunday. Caleb Williams keeping things going over the Carolina Panthers. But Caleb Williams, Chicago Bears, proving that trade they had with the Carolina Panthers 2 years ago to get that number 1 pick, give up that number 1 pick, give it to Carolina. Carolina gets Bryce Young. The Bears get a lot of great players out of it. They get Tevin Jackson. They get Caleb Williams. They get DJ Moore. They get more picks. Very clear-cut winner in this trade right now. And so far, the Chicago Bears and Caleb Williams. Baltimore Ravens, everybody, had a great game on Sunday. Down 38-28 in the fourth quarter against Cincinnati Bengals, then storming back to win it. This is the full potential of the Baltimore Ravens, everybody. I say it every year. The Ravens have the talent to win the Super Bowl. They have the defense. They have the coaching staff. They have the players. Now, Derrick Henry is running the ball great. They're putting the pieces together. I think they're my Super Bowl pick preseason. They actually were against Green Bay Packers. Things are starting to work out a little bit better now for the Baltimore Ravens. Great win right there. Great comeback win over the Cincinnati Bengals in overtime. For the Washington Commanders, they're just playing great football right now. Sitting at 4-1, just destroying Cleveland Browns on Sunday. Really no chance for the Browns. It was about 34-6. Then Deshaun Watson, goes out of the game, doesn't want to do anything. It was horrible. Commanders, Jaden Nails, one of the best starts we've ever seen by a rookie quarterback, playing great. Commanders, 4-1. Dan Quinn, I've been saying it, should have been the head coach of this Dallas Cowboys team. Should have been the head coach of this Dallas Cowboys team. They had the chance to make him the head coach and he was their defense coordinator. Now he's gone. Dan Quinn building something special up in Washington. Jacksonville Jaguars and Trevor Lawrence. Let's get a little round of applause for them because they won their first football game since last Thanksgiving. Trevor Lawrence has finally won a football game, his first since November of 2023, Thanksgiving weekend of last year. Ridiculous, disgusting, whatever you want to call it for the former number 1 overall pick. But Trevor Lawrence and Jaguars, 37-34. Nice win over the Colts on Sunday. For the Houston Texans, keeping things going. Stephon Diggs gets his revenge game against the Buffalo Bills. Love to see it right there. 4-1. Texans, a team to look out for. Maybe make the AFC Championship game. I think right now we have 2 clear-cut best teams in the AFC, at least record-wise, and that's the Texans and that's the Chiefs. 5-0 for the Chiefs, 4-1 for the Texans. Playing great football. both of them. Denver Broncos and Sean Payton, Bo Nix, moving on to 3-2, a lucky 3-2 in my eyes, but 3-2 is 3-2. They have a winning record, so I'd like to see that right there. Arizona Cardinals, good win for them on Sunday over the San Francisco 49ers. 49ers just let this one slip, and I've been thinking about it, and I'm going to throw a little bit of a hot take out there when I say this about the San Francisco 49ers. Congrats to the Cardinals in this win, but they shouldn't have won this game. For the San Francisco 49ers, Brock Purdy struggled in this one. I'm going to throw things over to Minnesota maybe. Minnesota Vikings went to this year with two quarterbacks, J.J. McCarthy and Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold's been great so far for the Minnesota Vikings, but you also have a top 10 quarterback riding on the bench. But you have a very young quarterback in Sam Darnold who you probably want to go with the rest of the future, pending everything goes well the rest of the season. Well, J.J. McCarthy, that's a guy that Kyle Shanahan would love to have on his team. That's a guy who is maybe low risk, high reward. Brock Purdy doesn't have this massive contract. Brock Purdy is that Mr. Irrelevant 7th round pick that we all know maybe. Doesn't play well anymore. Yes, he's made a Super Bowl. I might be crazy for this take. Maybe look this offseason. 49ers can move off of Brock Purdy, maybe go in a different direction. Maybe it's a little early to do that, but still, tough loss right here. Really bad start to the season so far for 49ers. Standers, Brandon Ayuk did get a little bit going this one, at least in the first half, having over 100 receiving yards in the first half, helping out my fantasy team a little bit, but still, 49ers struggling to start the year. Green Bay Packers got a nice one on Sunday over the Los Angeles Rams. Jordan Love, back in the swing of things. Josh Jacobs, kind of getting in the groove of Lambeau Field, playing well. Packers, nice win on Sunday. Devontae Adams and the Las Vegas Raiders. This saga is still going on, everybody. I don't know what's going to happen for it. Maybe the Packers could be a team for Devontae Adams. Go back to Green Bay. Love to play with Jordan Love. Maybe New York with the Jets. If I'm the Jets, I would have made this move yesterday. Haven't done it yet, though. So keep your eye out for Devontae Adams, the Las Vegas Raiders. How is this saga going to end? Is it going to end this week? Is it going to end today? Tomorrow? When is it ever going to end? Maybe never. We'll have to wait and see for Devontae Adams, one of the best receivers in the NFL. My New York Giants got a nice one Sunday, up at the 12th man, up in Seattle, getting a good win over the Seahawks. Dallas Cowboys, keeping things going. Sunday Night Football win with the Pittsburgh Steelers. A little bit surprised by that. In the elements, Dallas, usually they play in a dome. They were used to it. They got ready for it, and they got a nice win over the Pittsburgh Steelers on Sunday Night Football. Running game still struggling a little bit. Rico Dowdle, Ezekiel Elliott, they're figuring things out, but Dak Prescott played well enough. They got the win over Pittsburgh Steelers on Sunday night. Kansas City Chiefs closed out our week in the NFL. One Monday Night Football win, keeping things going. Again, I say it every week. Chiefs aren't dominating teams. They just aren't, but they're doing enough to get done. When I pick them every week, I say Chiefs are going to do enough, and they'll get the win, and that's what it's been all year. This is a team that has potential to go 17-0 off of just doing things the right way, playing the right way, and getting things done when it matters most. They're clutch, most clutch team in the NFL. Chiefs moving on to 5-0 after a great Week 5. Now, let's move things over to the MLB. Action-packed playoff so far. Let's break down our wildcard series. The Mets, what an incredible wildcard series they had. The best we've ever seen out of the wildcard series. Pete Alonso went down and out when the Mets are down and out. 1 out. Could have hit into a double play, end their season. But if they hit a home run here, they're up by 1 run. Pete Alonso could be his last at-bat ever as a New York Met. Doesn't get anything, I think Pete Alonso's gone. If he hits a home run here, then he's a hero. And of course, Pete Alonso hits a home run, and now in the playoff series, next series against the Phillies, he's already hit 2 more home runs, tacking on to that. Pete Alonso and New York Mets are playing great baseball right now. 2-1 in that Phillies series at the time of recording. 1 game away from winning it all in that series, moving on to the NLCS. Kansas City Royals doing pretty well. Took down the Baltimore Orioles in their last series, and now they're sitting at 1-1 against the New York Yankees, going back to Kansas City, and that's a big gain right there. Stealing 1 in New York. You don't want to send the series back to New York. You want to close the next 2 games out right here in Kansas City. Let's see if they can do it. Tigers, they also stole 1 in Cleveland. All these teams really stealing a game on the road, and that's big in the divisional round series, which is only 5 games. Again, I don't understand why it's only 5 games. Should be 7 games, but still, 5 games is 5 games. It's sitting at 1-1. Tigers have a good chance going back to Detroit to win this whole thing. Padres sitting at 1-1, also stealing 1 in Los Angeles. Game 2, at time of recording, playing pretty well right now, up 7-5 on the Los Angeles Dodgers. And that's about for the headlines this week. Now, Schoolyard Sports NFL Game Day. We didn't hit that perfect record last week, but we're going to hit it this week. Let's get into the games. Thursday Night Football. Seahawks versus the 49ers. Seahawks, 12th man, up in Lumen Field. Lost their last 2 games after starting out 3-0. Niners just went on a crazy rant on them in the headlines. I'm going to go with Seattle in this one. Give me the Seahawks. Geno Smith, they get things going. Mike McDonald, Thursday Night Football, primetime. This is your moment to win a big game, signature game. Seahawks over the Niners. Jaguars versus the Bears. Congrats to the Jags for winning a game, first game since Thanksgiving of last year. But they're not going to win right here, and they may be going another streak where they won't win until Thanksgiving of this year. or the next year. The Bears over the Jaguars right here. Nice win. Bears, Caleb Williams, keep things going. He's playing great right now. There was a play earlier this week. Caleb Williams just literally flick of the wrist, touchdown. He's playing great football. So what we envisioned for this rookie class. Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels playing great. Now Drake May also getting his first start this week against the Texans. Segue into my next game, Patriots versus the Texans. A lot of changes this week for the Patriots. New starting running back, new starting quarterback, new starting safety. Don't look it up. Jabril Peppers. I'm going to go with C.J. Stroud, Houston Texans. Stay down, stay at home, get a nice win over New England Patriots. They get a good win right here up in Foxborough. Texans over the Patriots. Next game, Cardinals versus the Packers. Two teams coming off big wins. Both teams good spots right now. 3-2. Kyler Murray and the Arizona Cardinals playing good football. Marlon Harrison Jr. playing pretty well. 7 touchdowns, 2 picks in the year for Kyler Murray. And then for Jordan Love coming back from injury, playing pretty well. But I'm going to go with the Packers up in Lambeau Field over the Arizona Cardinals. Buccaneers versus the Saints. The Saints, same thing as the Jets. They need to make this Devontae Adams move yesterday. And until they do that, they had great mojo starting the year 2-0. Wins over the Panthers and the Cowboys. If you want to bring that magic back, because you lost 3 straight games now, if you want to bring that magic back, I would suggest trading for the best wide receiver in the NFL. Let's see if they do it, though. If they don't do that, and they're not going to do it by this week, Buccaneers over the Saints. Commanders versus the Ravens. Okay, this is a little bit interesting of a game because Ravens are a good team right now. They don't have a great record. Commanders are 4-1. This game reminds me of last year's game between the Ravens and the Lions, where the Lions were running high. Ravens, they didn't have a great record. They were a good team. Lions went to Baltimore thinking they were one of the best teams in the NFL, and the Ravens just smacked them and put them in their place. I think that happens right here. I think the Ravens stay at home, and they just smack the Commanders in their face, put them in their place. Dan Quinn, Jaden Daniels need to be put in their place because they're a good team. They're a good team, but they're not going to win this week against Baltimore. Next game, Chargers versus the Broncos. Same thing for Bo Nix and the Broncos. They've been getting lucky every week. Chargers coming off a bye week. Justin Herbert's a little bit more healthy. Chargers over the Broncos. Lions versus the Cowboys. The Lions were, cheated worse than the New York Mets baseball team last year when they played Dallas Cowboys because it was a really close game. Lions reported in as a player to be eligible, an offensive lineman to be eligible, caught a pass, caught a touchdown, pretty much win the game, and they said no, he didn't report in as eligible. Video later showed that he did. Lions got hooked in that game badly, got cheated badly in that game in Dallas. I think they flipped the script right here, get a good win in Dallas, which they haven't done maybe ever, getting a win in Dallas. Lions over the Cowboys. Bengals versus the Giants. I like the Bengals in this one. Good team, bad record. 1-4 in the year. Giants, I know they're coming off a good win. I know Daniel Jones is the best quarterback in the state of New York right now, which is crazy to think about. But I'm going to go with the Bengals in this one. Joe Burrow, they deserve a nice win right here. Last game of the week, Monday Night Football. Bills versus the Jets. I like a little interim head coach mojo right here. Teams move on to an interim head coach. They start playing better. It's just a fact. Jets over the Bills on Monday Night Football. And that's about it for Schoolyard Sports NFL Game Day. Now, top 5. This week's top 5 is the top 5 head coaches in the NFL. And the reason why I'm doing this is we just saw what happened to the bottom of the barrel in the NFL of head coaches. Robert Saleh getting fired. It's time to give recognition. It's time for you to know who the 5 best head coaches in the NFL are, according to me. So let's hop into it. Number 5, John Harbaugh. John Harbaugh has consistently produced great staffs, great defenses, great teams, very consistent teams. There's not a year where Baltimore Ravens are sitting at 5-10 or 4-12, something very bad in that level. 4-13, 3-14, not bad teams. John Harbaugh produced a good team every year, a good football guy. Really isn't always able to get over that hump maybe of getting to the Super Bowl, even though he does have a ring. That's why he's only at number 5. But John Harbaugh, very good coach. Number 5. Number 4, I'm gonna put Sean Payton over John Harbaugh, and the reason for that is Sean Payton, has had great teams. I think his teams have been bit by the injury bug a little too much, and that's a little bit unfortunate. I would give Sean Payton maybe 1 or 2 more Super Bowls if it weren't for the injury bug. I think they probably could have won also in 2019 if the refs didn't murder them in that playoff game with the Los Angeles Rams. So I'm going to go with Sean Payton at number 4. Number 3, Kyle Shanahan. Kyle Shanahan, he's an offensive guy, but he knows where teams are good in the NFL. He likes to build up his defensive line, likes to build up his defense, get a good offense, get a good staff around him. Consistently, Kyle Shanahan has produced great staffs, guys that go on to be head coaches. Look at Mike McDaniel, look at DeMeco Ryans, look at Robert Saleh, look at all these guys that go on to be good NFL head coaches. So, Kyle Shanahan, number 3. Number 2, Pittsburgh Steelers head coach Mike Tomlin. Never had a losing record, speaks for itself. And number 1, friend of the show, best head coach in the NFL, Andy Reid. Now, a few years ago, Andy Reid was more of an afterthought in the NFL, a guy who could never get over the hump, a guy who couldn't win a Super Bowl, a guy who was ran out of town in Philadelphia. Now he's a guy who's a genius. Pick Mahomes, has Kelsey, had Tyreek Hill, had all these great players. He's a great talent evaluator. maybe the best now in the NFL without Bill Belichick in the NFL anymore. So, Andy Reid, number 1, and that's about top 5 NFL head coaches. Now, did you know, this week's Did You Knows, did you know, since the expanded MLB playoffs with the 2 wildcards per conference was announced in 2022, the 12 of them, all of them, have been won by the team that won the first game in that series. And there's only been 2 series in those 12 wildcard series that have gone to 3 games, both being the New York Mets. A little bit crazy right there. But this just kind of shows that you don't really need the whole wildcard series. I like the idea, but 1 game can be good enough. You only need a whole 3 games. It's shown that the team that wins the first game wins every single time. That's probably if you didn't know this week. Didn't know that? Leave it down in the comments. Now, week 6 college football made me say, oh my, upset. Because that's what we had. So many upsets. Now, upset, the reason we get the name for upset, I think it was a horse named Upset that won a crazy race, wasn't supposed to win. That's why we call a massive underdog win upset. Thank you, College Football 25 for telling me that. Commentary did, I think it was David Pollock. But we did a lot of upsets this week in college football. 4 teams in the top 11 lost. 4. Starting with the number 1 team in the country, Alabama. Alabama just beat the number 2 team in the country, Georgia, a week ago in one of the best college football games we've seen in a while, and they proved they were the number 1 team in college football. Then they go out this week, they play Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt, they don't know anything but degrees in baseball, and they lost. How could this happen? It's not as shocking as you think it is. You want to know why? A little thing called NIL and the transfer portal. It seems cliche. That's what it is. Diego Pavia was great at New Mexico State. The reason he left New Mexico State was for NIL and the transfer portal. His head coach, Jerry Kill, great head coach in college football, pretty much all time, was at Minnesota, was at TCU. He left New Mexico State, decided to retire. Then he's like, all right, I'll take a little smaller role at Vanderbilt, more of a executive role at Vanderbilt. He brought Diego Pavia with him, and he brought Eli Stowers with him. Vanderbilt doesn't win this game without Diego Pavia and Eli Stowers. Kalen DeBoer, they're ready to absolutely say you're the next Nick Saban last week after you beat Georgia. Now they're ready to crucify you this week. No joke. That's how things can change like that in college football. Kalen DeBoer is in deep trouble right now. They don't care. You just beat the number 1 team in college football in Georgia. They care that you just lost to the worst SEC team of all time in Vanderbilt. On the road, disgusting loss by Kalen DeBoer in Alabama, but still, wasn't shocked by it. Vanderbilt over Alabama. Another big upset we had was Arkansas over Tennessee. Arkansas and Sam Pittman. Everybody always wants to run Sam Pittman out of town. It's Arkansas football. You can get somebody better. You can't. Sam Pittman's a good head coach, everybody. He's a good football guy. Came in there in 2021, had a good year, decent year in 2022. Rough struggle last year, but this year, Arkansas, Taylor Green, turn things around a little bit. They rush the field. They get a nice win. Sam Pittman's your guy. I don't care if you finish the season. Sam Pittman is your guy at Arkansas. That's my opinion right there. So Arkansas got a nice win over Tennessee. Number 4 team in the country, Tennessee, goes down. They were number 2 in my college ball rankings last week. They're taking a big dip this week. So Arkansas over Tennessee. Another big upset that really upset me this week in college football was the Washington Huskies beating my Michigan Wolverines. Michigan's number 10 in the country, or they were number 10 in the country. Washington, at home, said, these guys have owned us for the past few years. Look at 2021, the game that started the revival of Michigan football. Michigan beating down on Washington. I was at that game. My favorite Michigan game of all time. National championship last year, Michigan beating down on Washington 31-13. These guys are saying, ugh, they killed us. We want back. Okay? Washington, credit to them, Jed Fish knows how to beat Michigan. So for Michigan, a horrible loss right here at Washington. They made a quarterback change. Credit to Sharon Moore, made a quarterback change. Jack Tuttle. But this staff just is bad for my Michigan Wolverines. It's just bad. You have 4 first-round picks in this team, 3 on the defensive side of the ball. You can't piece together anything for it. Anything. Mason Graham and Kenneth Grant are 2 elite defenders. Josiah Stewart, also an elite defender. And then Will Johnson's the best player in college football. When healthy, when everything's going for him. He's a little bit banged up. Derek Moore's a little bit banged up. A lot of these guys, they don't get any injuries during the game for Michigan. Then during the week, seemingly, it's like they're practicing on concrete. They get injured. Michigan was slipping a lot during the game. There were equipment issues. There were a lot of issues that went on in this game for Michigan. The staff just isn't doing a good job. You lose the strength coach in the offseason, Ben Herbert, arguably a bigger loss than Jim Harbaugh. Players getting hurt more than often now. Jesse Minter was a massive loss for Michigan, too, going over to the Chargers. A lot of big losses for Michigan. Wake Martindale just hasn't done a good job for Michigan at all this season. And it's disappointing to see that. It showed out from game 1, losing to Fresno State, and sending all out blitzes on 3rd and 8. Michigan's third down defense is disgusting. I think Michigan's given up like 15 passing touchdowns already this year. They gave up like 8 all of last season, 15 probably the last 3 years. Terrible right here for Michigan football. Bad loss. Again, the quarterback switch to Jack Tuttle worked. They're playing well. They went up 17-14, and then it all just died. It died. Jack Tuttle was Chris Olave's high school quarterback. Jack Tuttle is older than Trevor Lawrence, older than Justin Fields. I like Jack Tuttle as the Michigan quarterback. This guy shouldn't be in college football. Michigan just struggling right now. I don't even want to talk about it. Washington over Michigan. Credit to them. They rushed the field. Whoa. You're 4-2. You lost to Rutgers. You lost to Washington State. Don't celebrate yet, Washington. You are nowhere near where you were in the Kalen DeBoer era. Sorry, Jetfish. Minnesota versus USC. PJ Fleck rode the boat, everybody. Minnesota, tough game against Michigan last week. They came back this week against USC. They said, hey, you're from LA, we're from Minnesota, and we're going to smack you in the mouth. And that's exactly what they did. Minnesota, nice win over USC. And that's about for, oh my, upset this week. Breaking down one of the most chaotic weeks in college football we've had ever. So I'm a diehard New York Mets fan. I think my fandom of teams go 1 Michigan football, 2 Michigan basketball, and then 3 New York Mets, maybe even 2 New York Mets, because I love this team so much, the New York Mets. And they really are the reason why I got into sports. The 2015 New York Mets, I think, is the reason why I'm in sports. I think if the 2015 New York Mets, crazy how things go, they don't play well that year, they don't make the playoffs, they don't make the World Series, I don't have this show right now. I don't like sports. I'm reading science somewhere right now if the New York Mets don't make the World Series in 2015, don't win the National League. But the Mets are incredible, everybody. It's been a great run this season. This team went from hating each other. I think the players hated each other. Nobody liked each other. From Tommy Pham calling them out, saying, nobody works hard in this team. Only guys that work hard in this team are Nimmo, Alonso, and Lindor. Nobody else in this team works hard. Buck Showalter's like, I had a guy hit a triple and a double one day and then asked for the day off the next day because his legs were tired. This culture changed drastically over the year. From Carlos Mendoza being pledged as the worst manager in the MLB after starting out 0-5, not ready for the job. You know who said that? Me. Okay? Steve Cohen. Big buyer. Apparently bought into all the wrong guys, according to me. The Mets were terrible, according to me. According to everybody, the Mets were terrible. Jorge Lopez throws his glove into the stands, and the Mets were horrible at that point. Horrible. Then apparently the Mets' new celebration, going like this. That's because apparently they all got in a big fight in the locker room one day, slapping each other. Now that's a new celebration. Grimace saved the season. Lindor saved the season. Everything has saved the season. It's been a great season for the New York Mets. I went to the game on Sunday against Philadelphia Phillies, and credit to the Phillies. It's a great environment. Mets lost that game, but it was incredible. To go up 2-0, Mark Vientos saying a 2-run home run. I thought I was going to die in Philadelphia. I'm really the only one in the stadium cheering at that point. Then the Mets go up 3-0, Pete Alonso, let's go. Then 3-3, and I'm like, oh boy, I got a bunch of Philadelphia Phillies fans just screaming on me. Nemo, thank you, 4-3. Then Phillies go on a crazy run, 6-4. But the Mets never die. The Mets truly never die, everybody. They get to 6-6, then they lose in the 9th inning, but still, to win tonight also, to go up 2-1, New York Mets, hopefully they can win the series, hopefully they can win the NLCS, and then anything is after that. World Series, hopefully. This New York Mets team is one of the greatest turnarounds maybe we've ever seen in MLB. From being down and out against the Atlanta Braves, from being down and out, let's bring it back to June. From being down and out in June as one of the worst teams in MLB, where Jorge Lopez is saying, I'm probably in the worst bleeping team in the MLB. Okay? Now we're in August, everybody. Now we're in September. Now the Mets are playing well. Now they're 1 game out of a playoff spot. Now they're playing a doubleheader. We have to win 1 game. They're down and out in the doubleheader. They're getting killed by the Atlanta Braves. Then they come back and they take the lead. Then they lose the lead because Edwin Diaz didn't play great. He still hasn't played great, but still, they lose that lead. Then Francisco Lindor. They never die, everybody. They never die. Gets the Mets that lead, gets the Mets that win in that game. Then you go over to the Milwaukee Brewers New York Mets series. It's 0-0 in the 7th inning of Game 3 of that series after blowing Game 2, which is just rough right there. Phil Matone, bad reliever, just not great for the Mets so far. Hate to say it. Hopefully it doesn't bite the Mets in the end. But still, 0-0. Brewers go back-to-back home runs. It seems over, everybody. Over. But Pete Alonso and the Mets never die. It's truly shown so far this season. Look at Game 1 of that Philly series. Down 1-0. Nothing going all game for the Mets. They win. Just nothing ever ends this team. This team never dies. One of the best teams to watch, not just for sports, for any team. If you're on any team, whether it's a sports team, whether it's a medical team, whether it's a working team, the Mets are an example, okay? Mets are an example of an incredibly well-working team that loves each other, and I love this Mets team, everybody. Hopefully, they can make the World Series, and they're playing great baseball. That's about it for my Mets Spotlight this week. Now, College Football Showcase, everybody. Here's my top 25. And now, obviously, the games of the week, our hot takes. There's so many great games this week, everybody. Can't wait to get into that. But first, got to dive into our top 25, where we have a lot of moving and shaking this week. New number 1, Texas Longhorns. New number 2, Ohio State Buckeyes. New number 3, Miami Hurricanes. New number 4, Oregon Ducks. New number 5, Alabama Crimson Tide. New number 6, Georgia Bulldogs. A new number 7, Tennessee Volunteers. New number 8, Ole Miss Rebels. Everything's new in my top 10. Penn State at number 9. And then 10, LSU. Big game this week against Ole Miss. 11, Clemson. Clemson's just really improved over the year. Really rough loss in week 1 to Georgia, and they've just been playing great football since. Cade Klubnik silencing the doubters. Garrett Riley silencing the doubters. And Dabo Swinney, most of all, silencing the doubters. 12, Missouri, really just rough loss. Texas A&M on Saturday. 13, Notre Dame, playing good football. 14, Oklahoma. 15, BYU. 16, Texas A&M. 17, Boise State. Ashton Jeanty, the best running back of all time in college football. Maybe coming up soon. Could have a great season. I mean, he's having a great season. Could be having the greatest season of all time at this point. College football history. 18, Indiana. Kurt Signelli. Like he said, Google me. I win. That's what he's been doing. 5-0 so far in Indiana. 19, Iowa State. Undefeated. Matt Campbell putting together a good team. 20, my Michigan Wolverines. Headaches after headaches after headaches. This Sherrod Moore football team. 21, Illinois. 22, Utah. Cam Rising getting a little bit healthy. 23, Nebraska. Nice win against undefeated Rutgers last week. 24, Navy. And Army's also undefeated. And then 25, SMU. Great top 25 we have right here. That's about my top 25 this week. Stay tuned for the hot takes coming up next. Now, my hot takes for the week in college football. I don't care if you're my best friend in the world, if you're the most important person in the world, if you invite me, it's the most important thing in the world. This Saturday, I'm not showing up because we have one of the greatest college ball slave games we've seen in a very, very long time this week. Let's hop into it. What a great slate of games we have. Let's start with the Red River Shootout. That's our great week we have, where we're starting out with the Red River Shootout between Texas and Oklahoma. Oklahoma, they have Michael Hawkins at quarterback now. He's been playing a little bit better, but Texas is the number 1 team in the country. Texas is going to win this one over Oklahoma. Get back what they lost last year, and that's the Golden Hats. Quinn Ewers gets put on the Golden Hats one last time if he plays in this one. Could be Arch Manning, could be Quinn Ewers. We're just going to have to wait and see. Penn State versus USC. This is an incredible game, too. Going out to L.A., Penn State, I think James Franklin maybe eyeing that Florida job a little bit. I have USC, after a tough loss last week, winning this one. Miller Moss out in L.A. They went to Minnesota last week. They were a little bit rattled. I think they go down to L.A. this week, and they get a win over Penn State. Penn State, they're undefeated right now. They're in the top 10. They lose to USC this week. Next game, Cal versus Pitt. Cal, really good last week against Miami. Should have won, up 25, and then Pitt, undefeated at 5-0. Everybody thinks it's going to be a close game. Everybody does. I don't think so. I think Cal, they gave everything they had last week at home, and it still wasn't good enough. Pitt's a really good football team. I have Pitt demolishing Cal in this one. Next game, another great SEC matchup. Ole Miss versus LSU. Ole Miss has a great roster, and they lost to Kentucky at home, which was horrible. Something that can cancel out that home loss to Kentucky right there is getting a road win over LSU in Death Valley, and I think they do exactly that. Ole Miss over LSU. Kansas State versus Colorado. Deion Sanders, Shedeur Sanders, they're playing great football. Kansas State, a good team too. Colorado might just be the best team in the Big 12, and they're showing it right now. Travis Hunter, off a bye week. Shedeur Sanders, off a bye week. Deion Sanders, this team's ready to go. Colorado over Kansas State. And the best game of the week, one of the best games we've seen in a very long time in college football. This point in the season, coast to coast. Oregon versus Ohio State in Eugene, Oregon. Autzen Stadium, night game. It's tough to win, night game. College game day is going to be there. Everybody's going to be there. This is a rematch. The 2015 National Championship 2014 season. This is a rematch of the matchup we had in 2021, where Oregon went into Columbus and they showed Ohio State what they were all about. Gave C.J. Stroud his first career loss in college football. Ryan Day, one of his first losses in a very long time. His first loss ever in Columbus. I think still his only loss ever in Columbus. Dan Lanning doesn't like to lose, and he doesn't like to lose up in Oregon. Doesn't like to do it at all. I think he only has one home loss ever, and that's to Washington. Two really great programs right here. Oregon and Ohio State. Dylan Gabriel, I'm not impressed with Dylan Gabriel so far, but Ohio State hasn't played anybody on their schedule. You know me, I'm the biggest Michigan fan, but this is the great Big Ten matchup we have right here. And in this great Big Ten matchup, Oregon versus Ohio State, O versus O, coast versus coast, I'm going to go with the Ohio State Buckeyes. over the Oregon Ducks. Hate to say it, but Ohio State is a great team. Will Howard, great quarterback. He's going to get his first real test right here. They haven't played anybody. They played middle school teams, Pop Warner teams. They played elementary school teams that I could play for at this point in the season. They haven't played good teams. Michigan State is on that list. But they're coming off a bye week. Ohio State's a good team, everybody. Ohio State over Oregon. We're going to learn a lot about these teams. Is Dylan Gabriel really all that for Oregon because he's struggled so far? Is Will Howard really all that for Ohio State? Is Ryan Day a fraud? Is Dan Lang a fraud? We're just going to have to wait and see. But I got Ohio State very close over Oregon. Let's go 38-35 over Oregon. Cinema right here. Ohio State over Oregon. And that's about for the showcase this week. Now, at the buzzer. This week's at the buzzer. It's about the New York Jets. We all know the New York Jets panicked a little bit this week, and they fired head coach Robert Saleh. It was a good move, but it was a little bit of a panic move. Now you got a new interim head coach, their old defense coordinator, now their interim head coach. Let's say things don't work out. Let's say they're at 2-3, they fall at 2-5. There's a guy sitting at home right now, the best head coach in NFL history, maybe, who was the head coach of the New York Jets for just 4 days. Whenever they say, "Hey, Bill Belichick, you messed us up being our head coach for only 4 days a few years ago. Time to pay back for that. Want to come back mid-season, coach this New York Jets team, coach Aaron Rodgers, fight back Brady, win with Rodgers, be that guy." Brady and Rodgers were pretty much rivals most of their careers. AFC versus NFC. You want to be that guy who wins with Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers looks like he's at a retirement home right now. That's how he's playing. If the Jets start to struggle, Bill Belichick could be the guy for this team. Maybe not this season. I hope this season. I hope they go crazy and hire Bill Belichick this season. But if not, I think Belichick should be at the top of the Jets' radar for next season as their head coach, barring any crazy thing happen this year where maybe the interim head coach has a great year, then they keep him. Bill Belichick should be that guy. Should be the main guy for the New York Jets. Again, was their head coach once for 4 days, then left them for the Patriots. Can Bill Belichick be the head coach for real this time for the New York Jets? We're just going to have to wait and see. That's about for the buzzer this week. Now, we've talked about NFL head coaches a lot this week, but we haven't talked about which head coach might be fired next. So that's question day this week. Which head coach will be fired next in the NFL? Is it Nick Sirianni? Is it Doug Peterson? Could it be even Dave Canales down in Carolina? He hasn't been doing great. First year on the job. They're not afraid to fire a first-year head coach. They did it last year with Frank Reich. That's question day. What coach is next to be fired in the NFL? That's our question day this week. That's about for Schoolyard Sports Lane Frank, episode 186. Thank you for tuning in. Follow Schoolyard Sports on Instagram at Schoolyard Sports. Follow Schoolyard Sports at X at Schoolyard Sport. Follow Schoolyard Sports on TikTok at Schoolyard Sports. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review for the best sports content in the world. Be back next week, episode 187. Stay tuned.